The following video contains spoilers. We suggest watching the episodes alone in the dark. Hello Wolfpack, we're back, and it's time we take a look at a special fan-requested episode of the hit horror series R.L. Stine's The Haunting Hour. Since the requested episode we have for today's review regards two brothers, I thought it would be cool if I reviewed the story with my own perfect brother, Wolf. What do you say, Wolf?
Well, I guess I have no choice since your stupid magic house friend keeps teleporting me here against my will until I accept reviewing this episode. So I'm pretty much forced to consent.
That's the spirit. Well, everyone out there, have you ever wondered what it would be like if you had a perfect sibling who was better at everything than you were, but hid a dark secret that would change your life?
No, not really.
Well, this episode uses that premise anyway. The story we're about to review delves into the theme about perfection not being as great as it appears to be. I'd just like to remind you all that the last time we discussed an episode with a lesson on perfection, we ended up with a little girl devoured by a dragon.
I'm sure nothing as horrifying as that ending could come from this story, right?
We'll just have to see for ourselves. So let's stop wasting time and begin. This is our review on the Haunting Hour episode, The Perfect Brother.
That looks like it hurts. I know what pain is. It's great to be alive. But when I'm feeling weak and when I'm feeling down, she is there to lift me up over the stars. Yes, I'm a fine sister, Applejack. Bum, bum, bum.
So, our episode opens up at a school gymnasium where we meet our two main characters, the brothers Josh and Matt. Matt is the overachieving brother who's always been better at everything than Josh, while Josh is the unfavorite son who could never get respect from their perfectionist parents. This is all said while the two are competing with each other over a basketball.
Wow, two brothers hating on each other and always trying to show up the other. Never seen characters like that before. Let's hope they win that next basketball game, or else Big Yellow will be pissed.
You will win, or I will eat you brats for breakfast. When they get home after school to have the perfect family dinner, we're immediately introduced to their abusive parents, who are total control freaks that demand perfection from their children. These parents, especially the mother, are easily the most evil characters in this episode. Now, I don't want to give away too much, but one of these characters is going to be the bad guy. I wonder which person out of all the characters in the room is going to turn out to be evil. Can you guess who?
Well, it's so obviously the table. It's so sick of all the dinner messes and demands that they eat perfectly. But since the family won't, the table is going to have to kill them all.
When the obsessive parents demand to see their report cards, they dismiss Josh as a loser since he only got B's, but the mother gets pissed off at Matt when he has one A- on his straight A report card.
Oh no, an A-. What a truly horrific predicament. I guess Professor Farnsworth is too tough a grader. At least didn't get an A-, that's the worst grade of all.
It's sad to say that yes, there are parents just like this who demand perfection from their children, but R.L. Stine, of course, puts on a much darker take on it, as you'll all see soon enough. The parents refuse to accept anything but 100% from their kids, and they will cross a ton of dark lines to make sure they get their way. When Josh tries to defend Matt from them, the mother complains that they'll never be close to her perfect expectations, while the dad tries to argue that she just wants them to reach her full potential. Yeah, mentally abusive parents at their finest. It's like having Jude Hartfilia and the perfectionist teacher from Courage as parents.
I'm surprised that Josh hasn't run away yet, or even killed his parents. Seriously, these people are so awful, and it's only the first few minutes. It's a miracle that this conflict hasn't ended in a bloody murder already.
Yeah, the parents surprisingly haven't killed their own failure kids either, since they can't stand the dreaded A-. An A-? That's it. We're sending you two idiots to the perfect school to be cloned in pods.
Was that a Goosebumps reference?
Yeah, too obscure?
I'd say not obscure enough.
When they go to their room, the brother Matt starts to feel exhausted and acts weird all night. But Josh strangely doesn't make anything out of this development at all and just chalks it up to his bro acting odd. The next day at school, Josh is talking to his best friend Mike about his brother's weirdness.
By the way, the best friend Mike is a completely useless character who ultimately contributes nothing of great importance at all in this episode. He doesn't play a part in the plot, he only shares 2 conversations with his supposed best friend Josh, where the main character just dumps exposition on him, and he could have been written out entirely without his disappearance affecting the plot in the slightest.
But Mike is played by the same actor who played Big Brother David back on the episode My Imaginary Friend.
So what?
So maybe the twist is that his character here is another false best friend to the main character, and their friendship was never real at all, exactly like on My Imaginary Friend.
No, I'm sure they'd never have this guy play 2 imaginary best friends on the same show.
However, Josh finally gets a clue that something ominous is happening when his brother Matt passes out in slow motion. Yeah, there's really no point in having the brother faint in slow motion at all, since R.L. Stine doesn't often use slow-mo all the time on this series. It just feels kind of unnecessary.
If they had slow motion this whole time, why didn't they save it for an action story like Game Over?
That's a rant for another day, Wolf. So the mother picks them up from the nurse's office and is still a huge jerk to her kids, even when one of them is injured. Mother of the Year, ladies and gentlemen. Josh tries to convince his mother that they need to take Matt to the hospital, but the mom chooses to handle this herself and dismisses both her sons. Nothing but good parenting here, everyone. When they arrive home, Josh overhears his parents loudly discussing how the experiment has failed, causing Josh to believe that his brother Matt is not really their son, but some kind of experimental test subject.
It's Josh, right? Josh is the experiment.
Wait, what?
I think I know what the twist is. The twist is that Josh, the seemingly most normal person in the family, is really the experiment the parents are talking about, and Matt is not. It's an attempt to misdirect the audience so we'd be surprised by the twist ending. The entire episode is going to go out of its way to try and fool us into believing Matt is the one who doesn't belong with the family because he's acting weird, but in the end it's going to turn out that Josh is the secret experiment they're talking about because he truly thinks that they're talking about Matt even though they never say the exact name of which person was the true experiment they're testing. It doesn't help that the parents act more dismissive towards their least favorite son Josh, but give the supposed weird one Matt all their attention. This is all meant to make the twist a big shock, even though anyone who has watched more than 5 episodes of The Haunting Hour, or even a Twilight Zone episode, can tell what the twist is going to be.
Wolf, we're not supposed to give away the twist ending already. We usually save that for last.
Sorry, but it's just so easy to tell where this story is going. I'm calling it now that Josh is going to be the true experiment the parents are talking about, and Matt is a red herring designed to fake us out. I'm warning you all that the episode wants to mislead us all for the sake of a huge plot twist. It's clever, but still a bit predictable.
Anyways, the father offers to take Matt to the hospital, but when Josh asks if he can help, he's told to stay behind. Once again, the jerk mother dismisses her son and goes to Matt's room to throw out his stuff. Optimistic as ever, Mom. Josh takes advantage of his alone time by trying to redial the hospital.
Unfortunately, he finds out that his parents were never contacting the hospital since the operator implies that they were reaching out to a government facility of some kind instead since they required a passcode for a phone call, proving that they are indeed awful parents, which sadly isn't as shocking as you might think.
Josh confronts his mother about Matt's whereabouts, but she rejects him by forcing him out of the room. The imaginary friend Mike stops by to ask his pal Josh what's up, but our hero tells him that he wants to save his brother from the government facility he tracked the phone address to. The friend tries to talk him out of it, but Josh goes away to single-handedly rescue his brother.
So instead of, oh, I don't know, calling the police, Josh decides to take matters into his own hands by breaking into a heavily fortified government warehouse to find his brother somewhere inside. Naturally, I know the show is very intense and interesting when our kid hero has to save the day alone, but why do these kids never call the police? Josh can resolve this entire problem if he called the police on his abusive parents or conspiracy of murder.
Don't you know how the police would react in this odd world?
Hello, police department.
So of course, Josh easily breaks into this heavily guarded government facility because there are apparently no guards keeping watch in case of break-ins. Your tax dollars at work, people.
Well, at least we can add in some awesome music to this undercover spy mission.
Apparently this super secret government base is some kind of testing facility where weird people are being held in prison cells and there's plenty of stock screaming effects to make it feel ominous. The only thing they're missing from this is the Wilhelm scream.
Speaking of annoying stock scream effects, we have a jump scare moment where Josh sees a guy's scary face.
Are you still overusing that gag?
Yes, I find it funny. Besides, I think we deserve some lighthearted comedy moments, considering that everything that happens once Josh enters the secret lab immediately becomes darker and scary. Yes, this episode is already boosting the nightmare fuel in the story, since this setting gets so dark, depressing, and ominous. I'm glad to see the early days when the haunting hour actually made scary places over scary people. This place is genuinely creepy and makes us feel that the horror has a greater scope of power in this world over another story that only features a single monster. It's pretty clear that the haunting hour is really going all out on the settings in this tale, since most episodes usually take place in a house, a forest, or a generic school. While there is no big ugly monster in this tale, the writers take a new approach at scaring us, and it really works.
Josh continues to locate Matt, but before he can follow a trail, he sees his evil parents talking with a doctor. He sees that his own parents are signing Matt over to this obviously good scientist man for well-intentioned reasons, I'm sure.
Josh later spots Matt being moved into another room because I guess some idiot left out a map of the facility for Josh to find his way around so easily, and he finally arrives to speak with his brother. We get an honestly pretty emotional scene where Matt tells Josh that he's dying and can't be saved. Josh refuses to accept this at first, but then sees that Matt is missing his legs, revealing that his brother has been a robot this whole time.
Why not? Could it be because you are a robot?
Wow, this just got darker. Matt turns out to be an expired robot who is dying and had his legs cut off on a family show. The scene where he says that this might be the last time he speaks with his brother also adds a more heartbreaking emotion, since his final words are how he's always loved his brother Josh and thought he was better than him. It's actually sad to watch.
Well, we're not supposed to think about death, but okay.
Mom and Dad, but they only want perfection.
I hate them. Their idea of perfection, no one can live up to that. Not you, not me. I
Just always remember that no matter what they say, I always thought that you were the perfect brother.
Roll credits.
Not to be too nitpicky here, but I don't think Josh has a realistic reaction to the fact that the brother he knew for his entire life was actually a robot all along. I mean, look at Josh's face when he sees Matt as a robot after his legs were hacked off. I'm a robot. Yeah, kid, that's the face I'd make if I learned my brother was really a robot too. Thankfully, Josh's acting isn't too bad, especially when we get closer to the ending, but it's just too funny to overlook.
So, after our heavily emotional scene, Matt reveals that their parents are going to recycle him, causing Josh to go out of his way to try saving Matt anyway. But sadly, the universe remembers that Josh is still a colossal failure, and he gets captured easily because the one guard remembered to do his job. The scientist takes Matt away after he uses his last words to warn his brother to watch his back. Yeah, Josh really should have heeded his warning, but it will soon be another failure in Josh's life, just like everything else. While the one guard who works there escorts Josh out of the lab, we get another creepy montage where he sees that everyone there at the government facility is really a robot as well.
My primary function is failure.
The government drives Josh back to his house, where they amazingly don't press any charges for breaking and entering.
Really? None of Josh's crimes were reported. That seems very kind considering that the ending is coming soon.
Oh, I'm sure it's just to give the viewers a false sense of hope before totally crushing it in a dark twist ending. When Josh's abusive mother has a family meeting with him, he sees that the parents wasted no time replacing the old Matt with a new robot son.
A new OS. Yeah, you can get your children on Windows 8. In fact, it's also a buy one, get the opposite gender child robot for free. Why go through all the joy of natural childbirth when you can just buy a kid at a morally questionable government lab? The technological age at work.
But we get to our twist ending. It turns out that Josh's parents are actually robots themselves when the mother reprograms her husband to purge all the love he had for Josh. They reveal that Matt wasn't the experiment they had, but Josh was, because Josh is actually the only human in a society of robots.
Ha! Called it!
The abusive robot parents reveal that they no longer care to test their pet human Josh, so they try to ship him back to the lab he came from. Josh attempts to run away, but his best friend Mike is revealed to be a robot too. What? You mean to say that the same actor who played the imaginary friend David on My Imaginary Friend was also another friend who was never really with our hero? Well, now I'm glad you died at the end of your other Haunting Hour episode.
So Josh's fake best friend assists the other robots by forcing him into his crate to ship him off back to the exact same science lab he just escaped from.
Josh begs his parents not to send him away to be terminated, but the mother robot tells him that he's not one of them.
I'm your son!
No, you're not. You're just our experiment.
Yep, even robots are capable of pure evil, and Josh is never seen again. The end. So kids, what was the lesson we all learned? Exactly. This was an episode about how desiring perfection and expecting nothing but 100% from yourself and others can turn you into a monstrous, cold, emotional robot, willing to cross over many lines just to feel like an accomplishment was earned.
I have to say that this was a weird twist ending.
It's a horror series. Every twist ending is weird.
Well, for a moment, I thought this tale was going to be about people getting attached too easily to dying loved ones. The longer you spend time with someone or something, the more painful it is to say goodbye. Or it could have been how parents expect too much out of their children, so much that a company made children into a commodity so parents could have the child of their dreams, losing their own humanity in the process by choosing their desired synthetic children over ever having faith in real ones. Though I will admit that I didn't mind the twist being Josh as the only human living among a robot society. It's still shocking, but kind of too weird for me. We never know how the society of robots rose to power, or if there are any other humans in this world. It'll remain an unsolved mystery. My theory is that the robot from My Robot finally took over the world.
Of course!
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that humanity keeled over once that robot showed his amazing power to crush soda cans.
I did find this episode to be alright, but I'm not giving it a perfect score because I thought that the twist ending was slightly predictable. We all knew that this super secret experiment was Josh the moment the parents dropped that line about one of their kids being a test subject.
Well, I have to agree. Anyone who knows horror stories or has seen enough of R.L. Stine's The Haunting Hour can guess correctly that Josh was going to be the one that was never a real member of the family. Even with the big reveal of Matt being a robot this whole time, there are some hints dropped throughout the story that give away Josh being different too. It doesn't help that R.L. Stine has done a similar twist back on the Goosebumps story Shocker on Shock Street. In that story, we follow two kids who test out an amusement park where the robot monsters break down and go after them. The monsters were really a diversion to catch the audience off guard when R.L. Stine revealed that the two kid heroes were actually robots themselves the whole time, despite coming across as likable, innocent kids. In the book, the two kids got shut down and dismantled for being too human. Don't worry, the TV show version added a much darker ending where the kids got their revenge on their creator. But the Haunting Hours version is just as good, since this episode did a reverse of that twist. Some of us might have been tricked into believing that Josh was a robot too, but the parents outright say that he's an experimental pet human. Now, I will admit that the attempt to misdirect us on Matt being the one who wasn't real was too obvious, but still clever in the end, since we learned that the whole family are phonies trying to replicate a perfect lifestyle. While Josh was a good kid, his whole life was nothing but a lie, and the robots will always look down on him as a long cosmic joke.
But why would robots feel emotions or desire a perfect life when humans are flawed? They even say that Josh was a chore to take care of because of his human nature.
The robots are a perfect symbolic representation of what perfect people are like. They're mindless drones. They follow life in an organized manner where no mistakes are made. They refuse to do anything different or accept failure. But it's our flaws that make us who we are, what makes us human. Matt was a remote being who was breaking apart and didn't fit into the robot world anymore. His parents saw him as a problem that needed to be disposed of because he was imperfect. However, to Josh, Matt was his real family, and he wanted to save him because he cared for him, despite his decaying health. It almost feels like a social Darwinist story when you think about it, since the robots execute the weak for not reaching up to their standards of life.
That's all fine and dandy, but how could this robot world grow without any humans? Who invented them? Are there still more humans existing in it? How will life change for them in the future?
Sadly, I can't answer all those questions. A big part of R.L. Stine's story is that there will always be questions left unanswered, because it makes the nightmare feel all the more stronger when we're unable to know how the scary story operates. Not all horror stories can provide answers for us on the supernatural, but The Perfect Brother has a much more horrific world, since it does give us an underlying message past all the weirdness, and boy was this one ever scary.
It's still obvious that the mother is a main villain. She doesn't do anything to hide how evil she really is, and the episode doesn't go out of its way to try and fool us that she might have some good in her. I'm shocked that nobody caught on to how despicable she was. The father is intended to be some kind of regretful villain going along with his horrible wife, which kind of raises the questions on why robots need to have marriages, but I guess it's part of the perfection process. However, the dad was denied any extreme character development when you compare his character to the two brothers.
Yeah, this episode was not subtle about the parents being evil, and they do kind of remain as generic doomsday villains, but I get the feeling that they're only two drones serving some kind of higher-up power that we'll never know about. It does make them just as ominous as the government facility that generates more humanoid robots, but the focus remains on where it belongs, on the two brothers and their complex characters.
He's sure breathing a lot into these episodes.
Well, I think all of the Haunting Hours episodes can be complex and amazing, and The Perfect Brother is certainly one of them. In fact, this episode was so awesome that there was a rumor going around that they'd make a sequel episode to this. This sequel was going to be called, and I'm not kidding, The Perfect Sister.
Really? Was it going to carry on the Perfect Brothers story at all, be its own thing, or a gender flip of this story?
Well, sadly, we don't know. The Perfect Sister was one of the possibly planned future sequels, but then Discovery Family came along and canceled the Haunting Hour. Yeah, wasn't that a brilliant decision, everyone? So you can all thank the Discovery Family Network for canceling the Haunting Hour and replacing it with junk like Reno Set Go and Too Cute. Clearly, they know what the kids are into these days.
Well, that sucks. What did you think the Perfect Sister would have been like, though?
Well, my personal theory is that if the sequel did happen, we'd probably see Josh again, but he'd be a cyborg, since the Haunting Hour wiki actually implied that Josh was going to be remade into a robot himself, so he'd be reintegrated into the robot society. However, he breaks out of the government lab after getting partially reconstructed into a cyborg and teams up with a human girl who also catches on that her sibling isn't like her, but another robot keeping her as a pet, just like how Josh's robot family did to him. The robot sister would go from being her most trusted family member into a Terminator programmed by the robot higher-ups to hunt down Josh and the human sister to keep them silent from warning other possible humans.
Wow, that actually sounds pretty sweet. Sort of a family-friendly Terminator story. Too bad the show was canceled.
Yes, sadly, we'll never know if The Perfect Sister was going to be an actual episode or what plans the writers had for it. Thank you, Discovery Family. Nevertheless, The Perfect Brother is still a great story, even if it stands alone as an episode. It's got really dark horror, an intense story, a pretty good critique against wanting perfection, some well-developed characters, great acting, and some surprisingly deep emotional moments in the end, mostly between the two brothers, who do get strong scenes together.
Despite genre-savvy viewers catching on to some of the plot twists, I still thought it was a pretty decent story. Maybe not my most favorite Haunting Hour episode ever, but it deserves a good look at. I'd strongly recommend this episode for others too.
We give The Perfect Brother a gold skull. It's a spectacular, mind-blowing story that holds up amazingly well. It's a much better robot story than My Robot wishes it was. It's scary, very well written, and shows off the cool talent that the Haunting Hour is well known for. The Perfect Brother is a deep, nightmarish, perfect tale of suspense. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, or just tune in for more videos posted here on Wolf Entertainment. I'm your host, Catastrophe,
I'm Wolf.
and we'll see you all later.
So is your house gonna give me a ride home or something?
That time of mine, Mr. Applejack. Now we're racing toward the finish line. Nothing matters once you die, but we're along for the ride. And you sacrifice the meaning just to have the words rhyme. In the end, it all comes down to just how far we can slide.
Dude.